first time I heard that every lifetime is going on at the same time. It's like, how do you wrap your head around that?
Yeah.
Because we are, those of us, when you start awakening, you hear about past lives. Oh, I lived here. I did this. I did that. And you think of it very linear. Even when you start to learn about being a starseed and coming from the cosmos, you think about it very linear. Well, the inception of my soul was Elohim. And then I went to the Antares. And then I went to Andromeda. And then I went to Lyra. And then when the Lyra and Draco Wars happened, then I went to the Pleiades, the Maya region. And then, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 da. Then I came to Earth and I lived in Egypt. And it's like, and then all of a sudden somebody says to you, actually, that's not how it works. Take all of that and pretend you're watching television and you're changing the channels. So all the channels are going on at the same time. It's just you're changing it to pop into that life. That's being multidimensional.
Welcome to a Broaderlands podcast.
The opinions expressed on Broaderlands podcast are those of the guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Broaderlands podcast.
Debbi, welcome to Broaderlands podcast. Welcome back. It's an honor to have you on.
Yeah, Boo Boo, it's so great to be here. Can't wait to see all the places and spaces we go today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited because I can't have these conversations and I can't just go to the store or be in public and next thing you know, I'm having this type of conversation like we had just now before we press record. So yeah, I've seen you a number of times at the expo too. But I know you're always busy. You're very active at the Conscious Life Expo. But yeah, such a beautiful event.
It's an amazing event when you consider 8,000 conscious beings come live through those doors throughout the weekend and growing. This is the 24th annual event that's coming up in a few weeks. And so, yes to that. Yes to all the beautiful information. Yes to, filling yourself with as much as possible, finding your tribe at an event like that. But here's my caveat. Even though I'm busy, you better come up and give me a hug and say hi, please.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you. I always tell people I'm the Cholo version of George Nori. I love George Nori. I met him a few times.
No.
Yeah. I was being interviewed by George Nori. He's I just love the way he just lets people flow and throws in a little dagger in a quick question or a comment and he just lets you flow. He does a really good job the way he interviews people.
He's a beautiful being. Yeah, I've been honored to be on his show 3 times and interviewed by him, and I agree he really holds great space.
Yeah. He doesn't let the ego take over and start, he's just very humble and really nice guy. Yeah.
I interviewed him on my show. He came to me and asked, and I was like, yeah, a legend. Thank you so much. So yes, George Nori has been on Dare to Dream with Debbi Dachinger. Ta-da. And I was very curious about the inception of his career and who he is. He has been into this stuff since he's a little kid, fascinated by UFOs and ETs. And I'm assuming he grew up in the night. I'm not very good at this. I'm trying to do some fast number crunching, but I think he grew up in the 1940s. So it was a very different world. People didn't talk about what you and I are going to talk about today. And still he found some group, some, cosmic UFO group to join and would read all the newsletters that came out and would get into it. The groundwork was laid for him when he was so young that he would start to grow up, get into radio with his amazing voice, and then this would become his wheelhouse. So right guy doing the right thing.
Wow. And I share this all the time, but it's my story. I can't change it. Or, I came in as a little boy. I remember watching Indiana Jones and I've been there before in that type of environment. It gave me a cosmic memory of something, like and same thing with Star Wars or Star Trek. Like I've been there before in that type of environment. Or ancient China, I would see those kung fu movies on regular TV that are translated into English. And I remember I just had this inner knowing that I've been in these type of environments, especially with Star Trek and Star Wars,
That's so
That's
interesting.
awesome.
I hear that from people. And I love that for you. I think that sets you up as well, this knowing of or acceptance of all of that. So in a way, your past lives are a little bit bleeding in and they're being triggered when you see these movies, these shows, these history pictures and go, I know this. This is like intimate with me. And that is great. I mean, if you ever want to explore that more and find out like through regressions or hypnotherapy more about where you've been and who you've been, if that pops up. I was the complete opposite. Like, I loved all that, by the way. I watched that too. That's what I was drawn to, but I had no identification. I think I was so shut down around a lot of things that a lot of things scared me growing up. Like, I had this whole thing with dead people. Like it was big. And now from this vantage point, I understand, I was able to see, I was able to perceive so much. And as a very sensitive kid, and I didn't have a lot of, backing, anyone to explain things to me. So I just shut it down because I didn't know how to deal with that darkness and stuff. But I think I had gifts as a kid. And so there were a lot of things that were just, no, I had a lot of mainstream thinking. But I was also extraordinarily spiritual. It was very interesting. So certain things were okay. Other things, the door was closed. And it took just divine timing, me healing tons, changing, evolving, that helped. And then moments when the divine could access me more and start to tell me truths and open those doors more and make all of this okay and safe, to play in this arena. So I was a lot slower coming into the space it sounds like you grew up having acceptance and knowing of.
Yeah, it's been interesting, because I've always been into that kind of stuff. I remember as a little boy, I would go to the library and steal books. I didn't, I would literally take the books and just walk out and be Bruce Lee, Bigfoot, and UFOs. Those are my three topics as I was fascinated with. And Bruce Lee is very spiritual. He has a book called Striking Thoughts, and very, very enlightening gentleman. Bruce Lee. He was just an amazing person. But yeah, he was very spiritual. But I never connected the spiritual part until I had my awakening, because I got drained, with the conditioning, the trauma, the experiences of this 3D reality. And then I kind of lost that until I had an awakening. And then I just connected them all organically. They all go together.
God bless awakenings, right? We're never the same.
What shifted you from being a media professional to a conscious messenger? Because you've been doing this stuff way before it got trendy for podcasters, to everyone. Now everyone wants to have a podcast, but you were doing this before the trend.
Such a good question. And it's such a funny answer. But it's the way, again, that the divine could get me in the right lane. So I was going through a lot of changes and I didn't know at the time how to manage it because I was a professional actress and singer. And I also was doing some cartoon voiceover work. And in the voiceover arena, I loved cartoons, like for me to change personalities, give something a voice was great joy for me. I also am a professional singer. So sometimes, not all the cartoons, but sometimes the cartoons wanted a character that sang. So that was, even more expressive for me. And I was really trying to I was getting paid, but I was trying to find more work in doing cartoons. So I had this thought, which actually today I look back and it makes no sense at all, but it made total sense to me there. I saw something that was a job description asking for someone to run a radio show, to come in and start to take over a show. And I went, oh, I'll do that. That's a way for me to get my voice out there. So I went to this radio station. I got the job. It was in Hollywood, California. And I was doing a music show at first. And I was like, I love music. So that was beautiful, but it really wasn't fully fulfilling for me. And just when I was thinking, like, do I want to stay here? Do I want to go? The owners of the radio station came to me and said, we really love what you're doing, like good personality on air. Would you be willing to have your own show? We'll give you an hour spot. And so go home and think about it. And I mean, it was a download, boo-boo. I went home and was like, dare to dream, to talk about this stuff. And at the time, it was very just spiritual. That's all. Creating dreams, very spiritual. And so that was almost 19 years ago. And that grew. I went from Hollywood to another station and then ultimately to Burbank, California. Beautiful station. People used to come all the time for interviews, which I really liked, that in-person vibe. And I was growing massively, learning this stuff. And I didn't realize the perfection of my trajectory. And you're absolutely right. I was doing media. I was writing books. I was coaching people how to write books. I was taking books to guaranteed international bestseller. And then I started doing PR podcast booking for folks. And so all of that was my wheelhouse. And it was very joyful because I got to work with a lot of people in our space that I would be friends with anyway. But then I had this big awakening, and it was not anything conscious, but I was very called to do plant medicine. I am grateful to plant medicine because it opened me to information probably the divine could not have given me otherwise. And I left the country. I did plant medicine. We talked about this on the first show, but just for anyone new listening, from the plant medicine, the divine came and started giving me messages, very specific messages about who I was. And although most people would have been very, oh, that's so beautiful, because she was saying, Debbie, you're a shaman, you're a healer. You're a priestess. I had no context. My friends were healers. I didn't think I was. So the beautiful thing, I mean, it wasn't beautiful at the time. At the time, it was really confusing. It was like, I don't identify with this. What is she talking about? And this was God in a female form. And she came every night. She made sure I was getting the message, and she made sure in many ways. So the beautiful thing is it put me on this journey as a journalist, as a researcher. What does this mean? What does a shaman mean? And from looking at the shamans, that exploded my life into extraterrestrials and UFOs. And all of that became this married place of me understanding this woven connection and relationship between the two. So that was my journey that started to shift me from media, where I was very happy, to this sudden curiosity about this thing. And then extreme hunger. And I'm happy to say all these years later, I'm still hungry because, as you well know, this is not a one and done conversation. It's ever unfolding. It's ever deeper. The more you learn, the more there is to learn. The cosmos is vast. The species are vast. And I'm so fascinated by all of it. So I'm very grateful. And as I changed here, my whole way of being changed, because I was the person who put the spotlight on everybody else through my podcast, through getting them booked on podcasts. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm getting invited on TV and movies and documentaries and podcasts and radio magazines. And I'm not even pitching myself. So I started to feel strongly that there is a contingency, a council, if you will, of extraterrestrials who are family, but certainly knowing of me, and were offering me a mission to use my voice right now to speak about this. And I was humbled. And I said, well, if that is your will, then how could I say no? Because that's a beautiful mission, to be of service. And so, yeah, here I am, all these many years later, and I go where I'm called to go.
I love that. How do you define the word shaman? Because, that becomes very trendy nowadays in the spiritual community, and it's more than just dressing like you're from the ancient world. What is a shaman?
Thank you. It's such a good question. And it's a very apropos question. And just to address what you're saying, because I agree, and a lot of shamans agree, that out there, especially with plant medicine, there's people who are serving medicine and calling themselves a shaman. They are not. There are other people who like to attach it to their business names. Like, I'll make one up, like, I'm a business shaman. Huh? Like, it's actually disrespectful. What a shaman is, it's from the Siberian word saman, which means one who knows. So there's a lot of power in who a shaman is. Shamans come from 450,000 years ago, when the first shaman was a female. They were all women. All the women shamans were the midwives, the ones who knew about herbs, how to heal, how to run the community, and the leaders. They were essentially the leaders. And then millennia later, the men wanted to learn, how do I transcend this reality to bring back healing? How can I help my community? How can I learn how to heal? And so the men learned through observing the women. And that's why, especially today in Siberia, you will often see male shamans dressed as women. They literally have on makeup and women's clothing as an homage to the women who came before them and were the inception of shamanism. And how they become a shaman is they are chosen by lineage and they are chosen by spirit. No shaman ever chooses themselves, but they are let known, this is your path, and should you choose to accept it, it will not be an easy one, but it is your role to fulfill in this life. And when they accept that role, they go through this grand initiation that is a near-death experience or a mental crisis, or they're struck by lightning, or they go into a trance and they see a ferocious animal, and that animal in the trance will eat and dismember them. And then they blow that being back into its form, but now with shamanic gifts and abilities. And that's just the beginning, but it's decades of dedication. It's leaving this realm. It's using drumming. Sometimes plants, not always plants are needed, but they are absolutely on a path of helping individuals and communities. And they're very much looked after for their gifts. And I believe strongly that when they transcend, that they work in other realms, including with the extraterrestrials.
I want to get more into that, but before I ask a question on the ETs, I would love to ask you one quick question, because I know a lot of people that have just like maybe freshly had an awakening or are questioning stuff. It's kind of hard when because you're alone doing this. Well, at least I was. Um, but did you find, like, when you started to accept shamanic path and follow your heart, did you feel the old world like shedding away? Like, did you start to lose friends and family, or they start maybe thinking you're a little weird or talk, because that's hard to follow your own heart and being authentic in this world that wants you in a group think setting.
Yeah. In fact, the opposite. I
Mm,
have what feels like family now. And I might have thought that when I was just on the spiritual path, but now the fact that it's so much grander and we have all these amazing conversations about extraterrestrials and UFOs, and that whole space is just incredible to me. So yeah, I think the opposite. I didn't go into any difficulty because I was so involved with researching. And
yeah,
honestly, Boo Boo, I just went into it because I wanted to learn. And I thought, if I learn, I'll finally understand what the heck she's talking about. What is this shaman thing? What is this ET thing? So I was so like, I couldn't get enough. But what I didn't realize as I was learning is I was changing hugely. I'm
yeah.
not even the same person when I started, because I kept being healed not just by the information, by the practices. Everything they said, go do this over the next week or do this, this, and this. That's the kind of person I am. I did it. And so I think when you're changing in the moment, you don't realize it. But at the end of each sector, and some of them were very long, that I was working intensely with these shamans. And I have friends who are like, wow, who are you? And that was, beautiful reflection. So I just want to say, because I know this question is really for the audience, and it's an important question. I mean, how could you not follow the path? Resistance will never get us anywhere. That is the worst path, to receive clarity and information and then not to pursue it. But the thing is, once you free yourself and go deeply into this, there are events like what you and I go to, your family is there, you start meeting people, connecting with people, you listen to shows like the one Boo Boo's doing, and it changes your life. And you see, oh, there's a lot of people in this space like me. So maybe you want to leave family and friends, or maybe you want to just dictate, my relationship with them is cool in these arenas, but as soon as it starts to bleed over here, I keep that to myself, and I just go to my other family that I found, and I can talk freely and be myself. But I'm very all about being myself in this space, and I feel very blessed to have a lot of friends here.
I love that. Thank you. How do you define what a starseed is?
Well, it's what I am. It's what you are. And a starseed is someone who came here with a mission in this lifetime. They usually have gifts, and it doesn't matter when it happens. You don't have to be a kid. You don't have to be an adult. You can be 70, 80, 90, etc. years old, when suddenly there's this understanding, this connection with a species, a planet. There's something going on. It doesn't even have to be clarified, but there begins to be this awareness. Oh, there are aspects of me not fully from here. Like, I'm starting to have resonance. I'm hearing them talk about the Pleiades or the praying mantis or the Lyran light beings, or, there's a gabillion species, the Yael, the Sasani, etc. And we start to go, oh, there's something there. And that's when you know you're a starseed. Yeah.
Do you believe not all of us are starseeds that are walking this earth as humans? Because I've had people on, or some would say not everyone's a starseed. Others would say everyone's a starseed.
It's such a good question,
Yeah.
and I'm probably going to have to die to get the real answer.
Yeah.
But, if I was just to go with my knowing, and I've heard the same, it's all across the board, and who knows wherein the truth is. But if I was to go into my knowing, I guess the truth is that some people have just chosen Earth over and over. And maybe they've chosen to be, if you know about Dolores Cannon's work and her amazing quantum healing hypnosis technique, there are people who reported being clouds, being particles, being animals, being plants. It's so beautiful. All the choices our soul can make if we choose another incarnation after this one. So it is very possible people have been creators of planets and on Earth, and that's it, and just chosen not to be a species in another planet, in another cosmos, in another constellation, in another, all the places and spaces multidimensionally we can go. But as I understand it, it's really soul decisions. And we can just say, I need to do this to gain that, and make a choice that's going to best be suited for us to receive that. Or maybe something just sounds like fun, and we choose that. But it really is a oversoul choice about what one does. So it's very conceivable, in answer to your question, that not all of us are starseeds, but all of us are multidimensional. All of us have many ongoing lives. And even if it's not on Earth, it may not be in other galaxies.
I love that. Thank you. One of the topics that's I've always been fascinated with since I was a kid was the star people. And you see the ancient aliens, you'll see ancient hieroglyphs that show giants, and you hear about the Anunnaki and the cuneiform writings, or just indigenous people talking about the star people, or our star brothers and sisters. Um, when did you start going down that rabbit hole? And what have you learned about the star people in the ancient world as well?
Very quickly. Once I opened up to shamanism, like they both exploded for me at the same time, ET and shamanism. And because of the people I was working with, and they kept referring to the star people, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And, there's so much that's caused me to fall in love with indigenous people. And this is one of many. Just their awareness of so much. It's so much more advanced than a lot of us here on this planet. And so that caused me to start thinking, I think this is ancient. And then I started to look deeper and deeper into this and finding, oh my gosh, okay, in Japan, they have these earthen things that they found, that archaeologists have found. Now, many of them are for fertility and other things. There's dogus for different reasons. But then there are the dogus that come with these coffee-shaped bisected eyes. And their bodies and heads are in such a way that they're associated with extraterrestrials and having come from that period in ancient history. Then there's the Zulus in Africa who have been honoring the extraterrestrials. And every year they have this huge festival where they build something out of straw to honor those who came in the ancient times, and they believe still do, and see over them, who teach them. And the crazy thing about these straw beings, very tall straw beings that they build every year, is that these straw beings dance through their town. And if you look in it, there's nothing in there. There's nobody in there that would propel it. Then you have the Dogons, who are from West Mali, Africa, and from 3200 BC. Right? They're so beautiful. These West Mali Africans were connected with the beings from Sirius, and the beings from Sirius would come, and they would say they come down in a spaceship, a spinning spaceship. They would land, and they were their friends, and they would come out and they would dig a hole because they were amphibious. And so just, I guess, imagine for the best of your ability, a fish being, a dolphin being, a whale being, and it would be in this water. But it had great relationship with the Dogons, and it came to teach them agriculture and civilization and astronomy. So 3200. Now, mind you, a telescope was not even invented till 1862. And yet they knew about Sirius A, they knew about Sirius B, Sirius C. They knew about the way that the earth turned. They understood about crops. And exactly what you said, also the Indians, very much so. I mean, they've had great relations and always talked about the star people. And they talk about what we're going through right now means we're living in the fourth world, and what's coming up. And it's amazing how all these prophecies coincide beautifully, just like it coincides with the Peruvians from the Andes. Ancient people. And those shamans, those indigenous, talk about the Pachacuti every 500 years, and that we're living in one right now. And they've been, since the beginning of time, so specific that at this time, we'd be living in tremendous chaos, topsy-turvy, everything turning upside down, learning things about government, about different factions that are doing terrible things to people, but that it must come up if it's ever going to be healed. We must look at the darkness and the shadow for the light to finally come in, for all of us to make new choices about who we are And so our own shadow inside, but also what we're going to permit here. And they have all said about the fifth world that happens after the completion of this fourth world we're in now. And the fifth world is when the star people, the Kachinas, are going to come back. And that absolutely coincides with Bashar saying 2026, 2027, we're going to have a lot of unprecedented extraterrestrials coming. And by the way, not only just Bashar, but Wendy Kennedy and many of the beautiful channels I'm afforded to speak with. So the star people have played a huge role in civilizations all around the world since the beginning of time. And they're very involved and knowing of us, very benevolent, very caring, very also waiting for us so that we can be in a position to become part of the galactic community. But I will say, and it's very hopeful, that originally, like 4 years ago, I was being told there was a 30-year timeline. That's not so anymore. Now it's very specific. That 30-year gap is gone for connecting, meeting the extraterrestrials, and now it is 2026. And I think with things like the Atlas and the BB is starting to portend some of the things coming down the pike that we will all start seeing.
What is your take on Three-Eye Atlas?
Consciousness, pure consciousness, very aware of us, very benevolent, doing lots of things, not just for us, but also giving us a lot of codes and downloads. So it's here for a lot of good. Observing, not interfering, but also contributing.
Do you believe there's watchers?
What do you mean by watchers?
Extraterrestrials watching over us?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt. Yes, 100%. I think we're very protected. I think there's nothing to be afraid of. I think there's so many advanced civilizations aware of us. They're our family. We're genetically connected with them. And yes, they're very aware of us and they're very loving, very sort of adoring of us because we are one of the very rare races, one of the very rare species in the cosmos that has the enormity of feelings that we do, capacity for love, and huge ability to be resilient. And that's very rare.
Do you believe extraterrestrials believe what religion calls God? Do they talk about like a source or God?
Yes, they do. They do. A lot. They never use the word God. That's a man-made word, but they use source all the time. They are highly aware, highly connected. And, my one question over and over, they try so hard to explain it to me, but it's still a difficult one, is the dark and the light, the need for the duality, which is very prevalent. This is literally Earth is the planet of duality, good and bad, happy, sad, all that stuff. And wow, our souls chose pretty big when we decided to come here, but it's still hard for me. And I even did this yesterday in conversation with Wendy Kennedy. Again, I guess I still don't have full peace with it. But I will tell you what she said because you can get a lot out of this. And I'm still working on it. I'm still a work in progress in this. And I was trying to get clarity. I understand there's 5% malevolent beings and 95% benevolent. And I said, I started with, is that correct? Is that an accurate percentage? And why? Why? Why is there malevolence? Why is there need? I just don't understand. And it's the same answer. It's like, how would you understand joy and love and light if you hadn't experienced the other? I don't know. Personally, I feel like I'd understand it and be very happy there. But the fact that that exists is really fascinating. And this was helpful, which is, but you have to know you create everything. And so anytime you see what you perceive to be darkness or malevolence, you also need to look inside and find that existing in you. It would never exist out here if there was not an element, at least, if not a pattern of that existing within you. And the other thing, and now this is very fascinating, to an extraterrestrial, they have told me, they don't even perceive that. So when we go, that's bad, what that being did, that's terrible behavior. All of those labels, they don't even have them. They literally see the being for what it is, and they don't put any of those judgments at all. They have more fascination about, oh, they behave like this and they do it for that. But there's no antagonism, there's no judgment. There's just, yes, that's just the way it is. And that's amazing.
I love
Because,
that.
we can be a lot of humans, and this is something I'm sort of on a path right now to clear up. A lot of humans who are aware of extraterrestrials today say things like, oh my God, that government guy, he's a reptilian. They're all reptilians. All the bad guys are reptilians. Oh, and they're grays too. There's a lot of that out there. It's shocking. And that's completely not true. That's like saying all humans are bad, all singers are bad, all lawyers are bad. That's absolutely untrue. So there's totally a million types of species within the reptilians and within the grays and none of them are bad, good, this, that, and yeah. And so I think all of that's really important because we're learning to release judgment here, prejudice, but also out there too. There's a little bit of ignorance about that. And I don't say it with judgment because I had it too. And I was corrected very early on about, don't say that. That's like racism. So, oh, okay. That was a big awakening.
That's interesting. And you say it with understanding, so I appreciate it. The same thing with the Anunnaki. We think they're one race, but they were mixed species, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, there's also an amalgam of species from Anunnaki. Even the beings who came here and made the changes they did, were they bad? I don't know, because they're our relatives. They are literally our relatives genetically. So that's mom, dad, cousin, aunt, uncle. So are we bad? So I don't know. They were on a mission. They were trying to save their planet. They were doing the best they could. We had gold. They thought it was a good idea. They stepped out of line a little bit, but, in a way they were recalled by the other Anunnaki who said, no, that is not okay what you did. So even within that, yes, there are many different types and forms. And the more and more I get into the idea of tunnels that exist within Earth that have such huge chambers that it would house an Anunnaki. It would have to be incredibly tall, monstrous being. And if not the Anunnaki, I hope very soon we'll start to find out which species it is.
I love that. I've been to Egypt. I know you have. Abydos, that famous hieroglyph. What's your take on that? I mean, some people try to debunk it. Others saying you're just seeing what you're conditioned to see, but that's clearly a helicopter, in my opinion. There's like the little craft like Luke Skywalker on Star Wars is hovering over the sands with. There's a craft that looks like that. There's like an airplane looking craft. I mean, obviously like a submarine or something. What's your take on all that? Because I hear people trying to debunk it.
No, I know this exact photo, petroglyph, if you will, cut into rock. It's ancient that you're talking about. And 1,000%, I know that there were ancient civilizations here way before us. I mean, I just feel like, period, end of statement. There were ancient civilizations here before us. History that we've been taught is mostly inaccurate. And we are just now starting to learn the truth about all that has existed in this planet, the fact that there were cataclysms that wiped out the planet. You know, we grow up with the Bible, Noah's Ark, and yeah. Like, it was actually true. You know, there was a flood. It did wipe out the planet. The Hopis did go underground and they were saved by beings and. So there's so much history, and a big piece of what you're talking about with the helicopter and the plane and everything that shows up in that, was that their way of depicting a spacecraft? We don't know. Or was that because they had such advancement in technology at that time, way beyond what we think or know? But either or, it was advanced. It did exist.
Or did they repeat? Are we repeating a cycle of life and technology? That I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's so interesting. And you know, intuitively, I know that there's so much that's not recorded. We just have like a piece of a script, you know, a piece of an old scripture, like you'll find like in the Gospels, like the Gospel of Jesus' wife. It's not a gospel; it's just a little piece of a gospel. And I feel like that's what history is. We just have a little piece of what all these many cycles of lifetimes that in civilizations that have been here before us. I don't think we even understand how deep and how old it is, in my
I
opinion.
follow a lot of the science on this. Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome what is coming out right now. And there's this scientist, I won't say his last name properly,
Mhm.
Felipe, he's from Italy, and he is now speaking for the first time out loud about this LADAR that he did and some of the tunneling that he found. And I also follow the Romanian um, employees who work for the government and all of the tunneling they've found through the whole earth, and all the people who are making, you know, archaeological, like the cool guys, not the archaeology folks who keep needing to live in a very small, old paradigm and believing those things are true just because it's uncomfortable to start seeing proof otherwise. But there is proof otherwise, and it's coming out massively right now. There are so many things I have been told that in the next weeks, literally, and months, it's like, hold on to your wig, hold on to your hat, because it's going to start popping. Some things that are coming out, some things that won't be comfortable to look at, some things, the underbelly that are going to start showing, but also along with the extraterrestrials showing themselves more and more, are going to be more and more of these truths coming up about the real history of Earth. This is something I am so into, and
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated. And whoa, every time I learn and I do deep dive into these, there is, you know, more things that come up. That's exciting. That does feel a little bit like the Indiana Jones stuff, because it's a grand adventure to be open to this information. And I have enormous discernment. I don't just go, oh, that must be true. I don't drink any Kool-Aid. And in fact, I'm the complete opposite. I'm a big skeptic, but then things will land in my lap and I'm like, whoa. And there's all these proofs scientifically, and I can follow those and keep following those and going deeper. So, you know, it's a beautiful time to be alive with this truth information coming out, this real history.
Do you believe we're going to have actual contact? And if so, what is it going to look like? Or are we already having it as far as a mass event?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, I do. I don't think it's going to look like anything we can imagine, because one of the aspects that's very interesting is they are advanced civilizations. So they're different dimensions than we are, right? It makes it very difficult for them to fully be manifest here on this planet when your vibration and frequency is incredibly higher than the density we have here as 3D beings. But they will start making themselves known. they will find the way to reveal themselves. And I don't think it's going to be much different than Three-Eye Atlas, for instance, which grabbed everybody's attention and was brilliantly done. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to make themselves known and be going around the earth, so to speak, in any kind of rotation. However, they will find their ways. And none of the extraterrestrials are telling me or telling us specifics. They just basically say it's not going to be the White House like media. It won't be anything like media ever depicted. And it's going to be very benevolent. But also they have to be concerned about their safety, because you have to think about, some of these dark forces on Earth or government who may be gun happy, want to shoot down, want to capture, want to grab advanced technology, beings to dissect and find out more about them. And trust me, they want to make sure that none of that can happen. So it's going to be on their terms, but it will be very benevolent. They are so aware of us and how many people can be frightened. So they're very clear that they want first it to be beings who look the most like us, which for a great example would be Pleiadians. They look very much like us. And that's where they'll start. And there will be waves as they go on until they can get to maybe more reptilian beings, more octopus beings, so many beings, that look incredibly different, but also mean us no harm, but do want to welcome us to the galactic community.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some skeptics out there, and and there's nothing wrong with that, but I get a little frustrated because I want it to happen at a mass level, but it's not happening. Individually, we're having these experiences. Have you had any individual contact for yourself?
Definitely. Yeah, I have. I have awake. I have in dreams. I have every day. I am surrounded by them, protected for sure. And even when I do my healing work, I worked on somebody found me from Gaia TV, from the interview there, and in another country, and reached out and needed some help with something. It was very beautiful, really. And they had a serious situation going on. And so I'm really aware when I do it, and I mean like a healing situation, whether it's for a group or an individual, I never go it alone. I'm a hollow bone for sure. So I allow the shamanic lineage that I'm connected with, and also the one from my past lives. I invite them all to come through me. I'm not a portal by any means, but they definitely facilitate the healing, but I also bring in the extraterrestrials and to do lots of good. It's very beautiful experience, I have to say, because when I work on groups, when I work on individuals, I also get healed. Like my whole energy, DNA gets shifted. So I am never alone, for sure. And I've been told, and it makes sense to me, that I have not a galactic federation, that's completely different, but I do have a council, if you will, a group, a collective. And they're different species that oversee me, that work with me, that help me, all of that. And I'm aware of some of them.
Could you share a little bit of the work you do for those that may want to look you up? Any experiences with helping people? What type of energy work or?
I'm doing a lot of it right now, and I've been doing a lot of it for a while, and just and it's really such a blessing to help at this point. I do a lot of group things so people can join from anywhere in the world. That can be anything from a full moon or a new moon ceremony to working with animal spirit medicine. I'm doing a lot of work right now with 3 particular animals for this year, the medicine that everybody needs to help them. And then I'll do things, it depends, because I don't always know what's going to happen for that month, but then I get this download about the energy that people collectively are going through, and I'll set something up. So December actually was a lot of releasing stress, releasing heavy, dense energy, very self-effacing energy, people being hard on themselves and just having all this freedom around shame, etc. It was big. It was beautiful and big. So when I do it, when I know what the subject's going to be, then I open myself up to what is it that people need. And it's usually 75 to 90 minutes. And all people do is sit in a chair in a quiet space. Sometimes they need to bring a candle with in glass so it's safe. And that's it. I do the rest of the work. They just sit back and receive. I have people come every single month because it builds. If you keep releasing all this stuff and then being filled with other things you prefer, plus the light, there's a lot of shifts that go on. Occasionally I do privates for people when they come to me and they need something specific. So the more I'm out there, the more I'm hearing from people, the more I'm speaking on stage and facilitating things. That's, it's just another way for me to get to know people right now. And I can't tell you how beautiful it is who comes to these ceremonies. So if somebody's interested, they can go to my website, DebbiDachinger.com. There's a few things you can sign up for, or if you want to know which starseeds you are. And some people are very curious about their galactic history. You can go to DebbiDachinger.com/starseed. It's my free gift to you to learn more about your ancestry from the cosmos. And just spell my name right, you'll get there. It's Debbi. There's no E, Debbi. And the last name is Dachinger. It's Austrian. So Dachinger, DebbiDachinger.com/starseed. And then if you get connected with me when I roll something out, you can become aware. And the last thing is, I used to have my students ask for me, I want to learn shamanism. Can you teach me, some of the healing techniques? And I would ask and I'd be like, nope. Sorry. And then all of a sudden, a few months ago, I heard it is time to teach shamanism. Beautiful. So I asked and they said, roll it out now. Like in a few weeks, we want you to teach shamanism, but it's got to be level 1 because, oh my goodness, it's a lot to learn. And you need a good basis moving up in the healing capabilities. And I did exactly what they said. I put it out there and I said, we've got like 3 to 4 weeks, and I had a class and it was amazing to take them through the program. And then folks who want to go on to level 2 will do level 1. And that's just how it's going to work. But it's information that's needed right now. So I'm showing up to teach that.
It's well needed right now. So thank you. I was wondering, are there certain shaman that know how to shapeshift into animals?
Yes, they do. I mean, I don't have a lot to say, but exactly into whatever. But yes, there are some of them that is their gift. How beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard some stories, but yeah, that's interesting. Like, wow. Is there a difference between the world and to Mother Earth, Gaia, for a shaman? Do they see it differently?
I do. Also, from doing this work. Yes. And it's a profound relationship. They understand she is alive. She is powerful. She is a goddess. They understand not to take anything without asking, not to abuse her for her resources, certainly not to miscalculate her power. And that everything with her has animism. The rivers, the rocks, the sky, the plants, the animals, the soil, everything has a soul. They are deeply connected to Mother Earth, and they see themselves as the conduit between the stars and the earth, that energy runs through. They do a lot of ceremony with her, a lot of inviting her in, a lot of working with her. I mean, every time I open sacred space, which I do every time I work on a person or a group, she is included. The star people are included. Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, and all the 4 directions are included to protect the space, to hold the container, but also to remind us of all the medicine and all the lessons. So Mother Earth, Pachamama, Madre Tierra, so important. And when you develop a relationship with her, it's incredibly powerful, and anybody can do it. Anybody. As simple as going outside without shoes in the grass and just putting your feet in the grass. And I'm not talking about earthing. I am literally talking about putting your feet on the grass and just letting her heartbeat, like matching your heartbeat to hers.
Mm.
And I'll tell you something very interesting that just popped right now, because I'm fascinated a lot by inner earth, and I was asking about how it's lit from within. Are there different suns? How does that work? Is it concentric circles, all this stuff? And I was told, no, it is Mother Earth's heartbeat that lights it. And so in conjunction with Mother Earth's heart, which is such a beautiful idea, and the idea, because these advanced beings can use sacred geometry and sound to create light. And when I actually gasped when I heard that, because I thought, oh, that's a way more beautiful answer than I would have ever conceived. And it also made so much sense, you know? I hope we get to that point too, here on the top of Terra, to start to use things like that. But yes, and we get codes from the sun, we get codes from the moon, we get codes from the earth. They are very much alive.
I've heard you mention that music's your first language, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's a thing, because I was raised with it. My grandfather was really, really, really well known in the music field. He went all over the world speaking about music, inventing things, writing books. He would have loved all of this. And, that poured down into my family a lot. Certainly my mother was a musician. She was a conductor, music teacher, all of that. And then my brother went into the music business and was nominated for Grammy Awards, And I sang and played violin and guitar from the time I was little. But it's the thing that made the most sense, more than English, Hebrew, any other language, Spanish, etc. But I understand it in a way that I'm able to use it as a filter in life. And it actually helps me as a sensitive to interpret what's harmonious, what's disharmonious, what direction I need to go or something needs to go, to feel what's out there and blend it. It's very interesting. Music is fascinating, but I very much believe it's a great healer.
I love that. I love the Bhagavad Gita, and it means the song of God. And it's just a beautiful written scriptures of Krishna. I asked Debbie this one time, do you believe Krishna was from a different planet, was an extraterrestrial?
And
What's your thoughts on
Debbie Solara said yes.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, she's amazing. You could ask her anything.
yeah. What does it mean to awaken to your multidimensional nature to you?
It's so big, boo-boo. I don't know if you've experienced this, but, the first time I heard, it's such a heady thing to think about, but the first time I heard that every lifetime is going on at the same time. It's like, how do you wrap your head around that?
Yeah.
Because those of us, when you start awakening, you hear about past lives. Oh, I lived here. I did this. I did that. And you think of it very linear. Even when you start to learn about being a starseed and coming from the cosmos, you think about it very linear. Well, the inception of my soul was Elohim. And then I went to the Antares. And then I went to Andromeda. And then I went to Lyra. And then when the Lyra and Draco Wars happened, then I went to the Pleiades, the Maya region. And then, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 da. Then I came to Earth and I lived in Egypt, and it's like, and then all of a sudden somebody says to you, actually, that's not how it works. Take all of that and pretend you're watching television and you're changing the channels. So all the channels are going on at the same time. It's just you're changing it to pop into that life. That's being multidimensional. And then you add to it different timelines, different portals, different. So even all of what I said would be within this one, let's say, container. And then you step outside of that container and there are all these different dimensions happening, right? And then you add that, changing channels, changing channels. Then somebody adds to it and says, but by the way, every time you have a different thought choice, you just created a whole new timeline, and your being went off on that timeline and your other being is here. And maybe, and all of that is happening. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And yet now quantum physics is 100% saying that is accurate. Simulation theory, same thing. You might look at it as I'm in this video game, that video game, and they're all happening at the same time. And they are all my reality.
Wow.
So that is my understanding of multidimensional. And I can only focus on the now, right? Otherwise, it's a lot. I focus on the now, but what I love about that is it tells me make the highest frequency choice in every moment. And if you dip into some negative thinking, redirect the course, because you don't want to manifest that in a timeline. You don't want to be a victim to yourself. So always choose the highest thought, the highest frequency, etc. And I also say, remember that we're human. And if the extraterrestrials love us for our plethora of emotions and our ability to love and be resilient, feel your feelings. Just don't get drunk in them. Don't allow yourself to wallow in them, because there's no good for anybody in that very low frequency space. And you can get attachments in that space. Just, it's okay if you end up there. We all do. We've got highs and lows, but just when you catch yourself there, feel it, let it come out of you, whether you need to cry or just, be with a friend and say, whatever's going on and this sucks. And then make the highest choice and keep making higher and higher choices. So I think multidimensional quantum living, if you will, teaches us that we're all essentially living in a game. And in that game, there's nothing. There's no thing. It's black. But you choose and you put something there and then keep choosing better and better and better and higher for yourself.
I love that. It's funny because as soon as you think you're connecting something, there's always something else to question. And it's like, there's so much, like, it's impossible for any of us to fully understand the great reality, right? Behind the scenes. I mean, like, I was just thinking, like, what if we're like that movie Avatar and we're the watchers watching us experience all these different lives at one time? I don't know, just really interesting. But then something else would pop up and something else would pop up, like, oh, shit.
Well, I have something interesting to say about that, because I'm not sure I'm, yet another subject. I didn't really have a lot of energy there. But then I had Danny Goler, who's very well known in the simulation theory, and DMT space, come on my show, which opened up a lot of doors with Danny. And then more recently, I had Riz Verk, who's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
And we had, I've known him for years, but we've never sat down on my show in a conversation. So he came on Dare to Dream. And again, like, I really was in that conversation, like ingesting his genius, brilliance, and what he had to say around this, and it started making sense. So here's what I want to say. So with Danny, it was fantastic, like all of his experiences, and what he uses as a tool is DMT. DMT is a molecule. It's natural. It's in our bodies already. And yes, it's in ayahuasca, but in many, many other things. And in its raw form, if you will, you can smoke it. trying to think. Yeah, you would pretty much smoke it if you're using it as the DMT I'm referring to. So I have experience doing that, and it's nice. It's very fast. It's very interesting, and not the biggest experience I've ever had. But then Danny came to LA because CNN was doing a segment on him. And I was aware of this, but then I got an invitation. Do you want to come to CNN doing a filming of people doing DMT with a red light laser? And so specifically, they run a red light laser that goes, that goes horizontal on just a white wall. And then there's another one that crosses it and goes vertical. And they have people do the DMT, smoke the DMT, and then look at this. And some people report, I've seen the code, I've seen the matrix of everything, or they see interesting things. And so I said, they asked me when I got there, will you do it? And I said, okay, sure. Have to sign off all this stuff. And there were 4 of us. So we all did it. And I was sitting up against a wall like this with my face here, looking, and the red light here, it goes across my eyes, looking and looking. And I was shocked that when you're sober and you just see a white wall and red lines, like whatever. I did the DMT, and all of a sudden I saw snakeskin, like beautiful snakeskin. And also shamanically, that means a lot, you know? And so I was reporting that because CNN is there filming me, and I'm trying to be articulate, but I'm on this stuff. And thankfully, Danny was there, and he's a great translator. And immediately he said to the film crew, do you know how many people report seeing snakeskin? I had no idea. Well, I was so excited by it. I thought, like what you're talking about, what else is there that we don't see? I was excited. So I said, could I do another bowl of this? Yes. So they give me another bowl. In my case, I'm doing something called changa because it's better for my throat. So I'm doing changa, and I go back again against the wall, and poof, I go into a whole world. I mean, so much I want to say to you right now. But the first thing I'll say is it was a whole city, beings, animals, but nothing like that's here. Nothing. Very cubical, if you will. Beautiful colors. That's the one thing with DMT. I see colors you would never put together here, but they're spectacular. And they're trying to get me CNN to describe. And I'm only using words because it's so hard to talk. And I'm like, it's mythological. And that's what came up for me. Not a word I typically use, but that was the feeling. It was so amazing. But the other piece I wanted to share with you, Boo Boo, is that showed me that everything we see, that we attribute, there's a wall, there's a ceiling, there's a floor, there's a sky, there's an ocean that feels like hard and fast. And I'm seeing it, you're seeing it, we are concurring on this reality. When I did the molecule, I went past, they didn't even exist. There was no wall. And everything was another world. I have so much fascination with this right now because it was a reference point about all of what, even in those short moments, existed and what would happen if I went even deeper and even deeper. I have friends who do this and report back some of those experiences. So I do think we have certain agreements with each other about what is real, and when in fact, beyond this, video we're watching, if you will, that there's so much more.
Wow. I love that. That you just remind me exactly why I named this podcast Broader Lens. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. All of what our lenses allow us to see and perceive, and it's amazing to me that
And
there's so much more.
Yeah, you're right. And having conversations like this with people like you, yourself, and it's like, I really appreciate it. Yeah. You know
And
what?
may I ask you, because you do a lot also around NDE, and it's the same, right?
Yeah.
Because they leave this reality, and they go wherever in the light usually. But, you were even sharing a story with me before we begin, but I think it's like that too. It's like, what? All of that I made so real, like it didn't have to be that hard. It's actually like, it's amazing what's possible.
Yeah, you're right. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and we have a documentary coming out called Interdimensional. So they're gonna connect the two. So ET experiences with near death experiences. So yeah, be amazing.
Interesting.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna ask you one last question before we go. With all this stuff you were talking about, with all the knowledge and people, all the great minds and geniuses and mystics and shaman, etc., and the beings you've channeled and your friends have channeled, what's the purpose of life?
I think it's back to what I said earlier. What a big, wonderful question. And I think it's a beautiful reminder. We really did come here to learn, but we also came here to have fun. And it's so important to remember that piece when you're making all those big choices for big timelines. Like, what's the most fun? What's the highest for me? Because you really did come here to express your soul, to have joy, to have love, to have wonderful experiences that you can't always have unless you're in a body. And then there's the aspect that your soul said, how can I gain these other pieces, maybe that I didn't get in these other concurrent lifetimes? And you take that on, and everybody agrees to play a role. The terrible parent who said, I love you so much, I'll agree to do this to you in the lifetime so you can get that, and that sort of thing. And I think that's why snake serpent medicine says, teach me how to release the stories and my past the way you release your skin. Show me the way to wrap your coils of light around us, great serpent, Sarwakinti, all these different. Sarwakinti is royal hummingbird, which teaches us about the joy of life, the sweet nectar of life, to be calm amidst the chaos. So not to make it so damn serious and so damn like, all of what's wrong, but to remember all of what's right. You came here to have fun. You came here to love. You came here to be loved. You came here to express the amazingness of who you are. And I really believe that's it. And to heal separation, because that's the original wound. Separation from God, separation from source, separation from each other, separation from our cosmic brothers and sisters who are really our family. Heal all of that.
I love that. Thanks. What a beautiful answer. So I appreciate you coming on. I really do.
I
mean, I could
appreciate
keep.
you too, Boo Boo, my brother.
Yeah. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, Debbie. Again, I'll post your links and all your info when I upload this video on YouTube. And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thank you, sweetheart. And if you put anything on Instagram, invite me to collaborate, and I'll put it on my pages too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right, honey. We get hugs soon.
Yeah. Take care. Namastizzle.
Yes. Thanks, lovey.
Bye-bye.
Namastizzle.
Just know we out here. Know we out here working in a major way. Had to speak on it just to make a break. Any given subject, know we make a way. Time to level up on a day-to-day. Know we out here working for the greater good. Expand your mind, broaden your lens the way you should. From the stars to the galaxy to speak on spirituality. Higher understanding for the neighborhood.